President Putin has amended Russia's nuclear doctrine today to imply that if American weapons are used against Russian territory, which they now have been, that means that he is potentially in a nuclear confrontation with the United States. So what does that all mean? Well, the Russians have got a lot of nuclear weapons, 5,500 nuclear warheads, and it's more than the Americans have got, but they've got several thousand as well. What's more important is what are they deployed on? The Russians have got them deployed, about 1,700 of them, and again, that's only about 200 more than the United States. And they have them on a triad of land-based ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missile-firing submarines, and aircraft that can launch cruise missiles or whatever with nuclear warheads. So they've got about 1,700 deployed, and again, the United States is only about 150 behind that. Both sides have so many nuclear weapons they could destroy each other several times over. The land-based ICBMs are the most interesting and the most potent. And if we look at where they are, and we're looking at Russia here, but remember, this is always a mirror image. The Americans have got everything more or less the same as Russia. Their ICBM bases are in Russia, and those ICBMs would fly, if necessary, to America. Now, they won't go over the United Kingdom, because if this was a globe, they would go over the North Pole. As indeed, American weapons from bases in Northern America would go over Canada, over the North Pole, into Russia. It takes about 20 minutes, and that's the time that one side would have to react to the other. And if we think about the ranges of these things, if we assume Moscow as a starting point, which it isn't because these bases are elsewhere, but if you just think of it, the range is about 6,000 miles. It can reach, the big long-range weapons can reach everywhere. And if we're talking about ballistic missile submarines, it could be in the Norwegian Sea, it could be in the Barents Sea, it might even be in the Atlantic. So potentially, Russia and America can reach each other, the whole continent, anywhere, at any time, more or less, in the world. That's what they've got. Now, the point about all of this is that this is the way it was in the mid-1970s, and it hasn't changed. Technically, it hasn't changed for 50 years. They've modernised their forces, but they're still basically structured in this way. What has changed is that the arms control regime that built up in the 1960s was quite powerful. That regime has been whittled away and is almost now non-existent. And so the arms control agreements that used to build predictability into all of this have now more or less disappeared. And that's what makes President Putin's statements more reckless these days than they were, say, a year ago.